Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a massive development in boxing. Floyd Mayweather stepping into Shakur Stevenson's camp, co-signing him as the best at 135 and hinting he might be the one to guide Shakur into the next phase of his career, all while this high-stakes clash with Teofimo Lopez looms in the background. This isn't just another Fight Week headline. You've got Mayweather calling Shakur the most skilled fighter in his division, Shakur grinding through a brutal camp with a chip on his shoulder, Teofimo talking about chasing Terence Crawford, and analysts completely split over how this matchup plays out. There's a lot to unpack. Let's start with Mayweather, because that's the headline that shook things up. Floyd showed up at Shakur Stevenson's training camp ahead of the Teofimo Lopez fight and didn't hold back at all. In his eyes, the most skilled fighter at 135 pounds right now is Shakur Stevenson, hands down. That's coming from one of the greatest defensive fighters in history, a guy who built his legacy on timing, ring IQ, and making elite fighters miss by inches. When someone like that looks at Shakur and sees himself in the way he controls range and neutralizes opponents, you pay attention. Floyd also hinted at something even bigger. Shakur's current contract situation might be coming to an end, and Mayweather made it clear he'd love to step in and help steer his career. He talked about wanting to give Shakur the kinds of fights he's been asking for, those big names, marquee events, the best opponents available. In other words, if everything lines up, Mayweather sees himself as the guy who can take Shakur to that next level, both in terms of matchmaking and star power. That alone tells you how highly he rates Stevenson's talent and potential. Meanwhile, inside that camp, Shakur is locked all the way in. Every interview, every training clip, you can see how serious this run-up has been. He's tightening up his footwork, the timing, the defensive reads, the combinations. The sparring is intense, the conditioning is brutal, and nothing looks casual. This is a fighter who knows every mistake in this kind of matchup can cost you rounds, or worse, the entire fight. Shakur has been open about where his mindset is, too. He's not walking around like a guy who thinks he's already proven everything. He's flat out admitted that he's got a chip on his shoulder. He knows a lot of people are sleeping on him, saying he's not that guy anymore, or maybe he's overrated. In his mind, he's the same fighter he's always been, just going through an adjustment period as he moves through weight classes and takes on different styles. He's adamant that he's adapting, and that what people are going to see on July 12th is a statement performance. That's the date he circled to remind everyone exactly who he is. He reinforced that point in a sit-down with Ariel Helwani. Shakur didn't dance around anything. He said straight up that Teofimo Lopez has never faced anyone on his level. He said he's 1,000,000% sure of that. And when the conversation turned to Lopez talking about guys like Terence Crawford, Shakur didn't hesitate. He thinks Teo gets knocked out against someone like Crawford, that Crawford is simply too big and too strong, and while he respects Lopez's skills, he does not put him on Bud's level. That's important context. Shakur isn't pretending Teofimo is some basic fighter. He's given him credit as a very skillful, explosive guy who brings real danger to the ring. But in Shakur's eyes, there are levels to this game, and he believes he's operating on a higher one, especially in terms of pure skill and ring intelligence. The business side around this fight is just as interesting. For a while, it looked like Shakur might walk away from Matchroom altogether, but now Eddie Hearn and Matchroom are heavily involved in this event, especially on the US side. Shakur clarified that he's actually not signed to Matchroom at the moment, but he has a good relationship with Eddie, he respects him, and he's happy that Hearn's promotional machine is backing this card. If the right deal comes along in the future, he says he'll consider it, but for now, he's operating as his own man, working through his manager and the team putting the event together. That kind of independence shows he's thinking carefully about both the boxing and the business. Now, let's get into what analysts are seeing when they look at Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez, because this is where the matchup really gets fascinating. One of the biggest questions everyone keeps bringing up is how Teofimo handles movement. We've seen Lopez at his best as this explosive, athletic, aggressive fighter who loves to set his feet, load up, and explode with big counters and combinations. When he can dictate the tempo and stand his ground, he's a nightmare. Fast, powerful, and dangerous. But when you force him to chase, when you keep him turning and reacting instead of setting the table himself, the problems start to show. We saw issues against Sandor Martin. We saw issues against Jermaine Ortiz. Both guys used their legs, their angles, and their timing to keep Lopez from planting his feet and doing the damage he wanted to do. When you make him reset over and over, the frustration creeps in. And when Teo gets frustrated, mentally he can drift. That's when you start seeing those moments where he's asking himself, do I still got it in the ring? Bruce Carrington, one of the voices who's broken this fight down in detail, pointed straight at that. He said Shakur might be the worst kind of matchup for Lopez in that sense. Shakur is a master at managing distance, stepping just out of range, then sliding back in at angles you don't expect. He doesn't give you clean looks, he forces you to reach, and once you start reaching, you're open for counters. A lot of people have tried to simplify this fight to a Teo is bigger and more explosive, Shakur is the better boxer, but it goes deeper than that. Some fans argue Lopez has the physical advantages at the higher weight. He's been at 140, he's filled out, and they think that's going to be a big factor. Others believe Shakur's technical ability and discipline completely neutralize that size edge. Veteran trainer Bozy has even pointed out that he's seen Shakur spar and box with guys way bigger than him, light heavyweights, even heavyweights, and not just survive, but shine. To him, Shakur can absolutely handle this weight. Bozy also brings up something people forget when they obsess over knockout ratios and raw power. Speed is its own kind of power. Shakur isn't walking around with this hulking frame, but his shots get there before opponents see them coming. And it's that unseen punch, the one you don't brace for, that does the most damage. Even shots that don't look dramatic on camera can scramble timing, sap energy, and slowly break a fighter down because they're so clean and so sharp. Some see this fight ending in a clear decision for Shakur. Bozy has even leaned that way, saying he expects it to go the distance if Teofimo is cautious, but he's also warned that if Teofimo comes in wild, overeager, and runs into something he doesn't see, all bets are off. With the speed and accuracy Shakur has, one perfectly timed shot can change everything. On the flip side, no one is writing off Teofimo's chances. If anything, a lot of analysts believe Lopez fights up to the level of his opposition. We've seen it. Against Vasyl Lomachenko, he was the underdog. Against Josh Taylor, same thing. Both southpaws, both considered elite, and in both cases, Teo rose to the occasion and delivered when the lights were brightest. That's why some people think this fight could actually bring out the absolute best version of Teofimo, maybe better than anything we've seen before.
But you can't just look at stance and say Loma and Taylor are southpaws, Shakur's a southpaw, so the same thing will happen. Styles make fights. Shakur doesn't fight like Lomachenko, and he doesn't fight like Josh Taylor. He's far more patient, far more defensively responsible, and much harder to draw into wild exchanges. You can't bank on the same blueprint working here. Against Shakur, you almost have to do some out-of-pocket things. Throw when he's throwing, take chances in the middle of his counters, and accept that you might have to walk through some fire to land your best shots. Let's quickly frame where Shakur is in his career, because that context matters. He's undefeated, 24-0 with 11 knockouts, turned pro back in 2017, and he's the same age as Teo, 28. Both of them are squarely in their athletic prime. Shakur's a three-weight world champion already, and what makes that impressive is that he started a division lower than Lopez. On paper, that would suggest he's the naturally smaller man, but as careers go on, bodies fill out, and by fight night, these two might be nearly identical in size. One of the first times a lot of people really woke up to how special Shakur is was his fight against Jamel Herring in 2021. Before that, he had solid wins, Joet Gonzalez, Jeremiah Nakatila, but Herring was a known, respected champion, a guy who had beaten Carl Frampton and Lamont Roach. That was the first, let's see what this kid really is type of test. And Shakur didn't just pass it, he dominated Herring, controlled every second, and stopped him in the 10th. That performance turned a lot of skeptics into believers. You could see, clear as day, the kind of talent we're talking about now. And yet, even with all that, some fans still underrate his power and question his entertainment value. That's why so many insiders keep hammering this point. Don't confuse patience with lack of danger. His speed, his precision, his ability to hit you clean without getting touched, that is its own kind of power. It wears you down mentally and physically. Another veteran analyst has said that what makes Shakur especially tricky is how unreadable his attacks can be. Punches come from angles and with timing that most opponents just aren't used to seeing. Lopez, who thrives on rhythm and countering, could find himself constantly half a beat behind, reacting instead of dictating.
Now, no serious breakdown of this fight is complete without talking about Teofimo's mindset. That's been one of the biggest question marks around him for the last few years. We've seen the highs, the Lomachenko fight, the Josh Taylor fight. Those were moments where he looked like one of the best fighters in the world, period. But we've also seen him go through real personal issues, distractions outside the ring, and even talk about walking away from boxing altogether. At times, his focus hasn't been there, and when that happens, his performances slip. The encouraging part, if you're in the Teo camp, is that lately the reports and the footage suggest he's rediscovering that hunger. He looks locked in again, talking about legacy, talking about proving people wrong. If he brings that locked-in, disciplined, I'm here to dominate version of himself, he becomes a very live underdog in a fight like this. Timothy Bradley added a really interesting layer to this whole discussion when he broke down what he calls autonomous fighters. In his view, guys like Shakur, Teofimo, Floyd Mayweather, Terence Crawford, Naoya Inoue, they reach a level where they don't need to be told what to do round by round. Their fundamentals are so sharp, their experience so deep, that adjustments become automatic. They read patterns, rhythms, styles in real time, and they solve problems on their own in the ring. Bradley says both Shakur and Teo are at or near that level already, which is why this matchup is so intriguing. You've basically got two high IQ fighters trying to outthink and out-adjust each other in real time without relying on their corners to save them. Bradley also compared the potential feel of this fight to Mayweather versus Zab, not because Lopez fights exactly like Zab, but because of the dynamic. Early on, the faster, explosive guy having his moments, but over time, the more disciplined, defensively gifted technician making the right adjustments and taking over. In his view, that's how this could play out. He thinks Lopez will feel Shakur's timing and sharpness early and start respecting that power, even if Shakur isn't known as some one-punch knockout artist. From there, Bradley expects Shakur to keep the fight mostly in the center of the ring, use his counters, use his defense, and slowly outbox Lopez down the stretch. Still, even Bradley warns against sleeping on Teo. Whatever you think of the things Lopez says in interviews or on social media, inside the ropes, the man can fight. His win over Lomachenko proved that he's willing to bite down and embrace the moment. If Shakur has any lapses in focus, any lazy exits or dropped hands, Lopez has the speed and the power to make him pay instantly. One more thing that really sets Shakur apart is his sense of accountability. Everyone around him talks about it. He doesn't blame trainers, promoters, or judges when things don't go perfectly. He looks in the mirror and asks what he could have done better. That's why his camps are so intense. Every sparring session, every drill, he's paying attention to the tiny details, foot placement, defensive reactions, punch selection. Knowing those habits are what carry into the fight. That mindset is a big reason why he's so consistent. You don't see him coming in wildly out of shape or unprepared. He treats every fight, big name or not, like it's a world title level test. So when you put all of this together, Mayweather's endorsement, Shakur's chip on his shoulder, Teofimo's unpredictability and explosiveness, the questions about movement, the mental battles both guys have faced, you end up with one of the most intriguing matchups in boxing right now. It's not just power versus boxing, it's patience versus aggression, discipline versus volatility, tactical mastery versus raw talent. A lot of people are leaning towards Shakur Stevenson by decision, especially if he controls the pace and keeps this a chess match. But there's also a very real possibility that Lopez rises to the moment, uses his athleticism, and turns this into exactly the kind of unpredictable, high-drama fight where one big moment can flip everything upside down. Either way, this is the kind of fight that defines careers. For Shakur, a dominant win over Teofimo Lopez would silence a lot of critics and reinforce Mayweather's claim that he's the most skilled fighter at 135 and beyond. For Teofimo, beating Shakur would put him right back in the conversation with the very best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport and give him serious momentum if he really wants names like Terence Crawford down the line. That's where things stand right now. Floyd Mayweather is all in on Shakur Stevenson. Shakur is locked in, feeling overlooked, and ready to make July 12th a statement. Teofimo Lopez is dangerous, unpredictable, and hungry to prove he's still elite. And the analysts, they're split right down the middle. We'll keep following every update around Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez, from the camps to the press conferences to the final face-off. Make sure you're subscribed and locked in, because this is one fight you do not want to miss.